Hello there and welcome back to another review. So the film we're going to be looking at today, I would say, is probably essential Alexander Sheng viewing. So if you know your Shaw Brothers and you love Alexander Sheng, this is one film that you've got to check out, and that of course is 1977's Chinatown Kid. Now the most obvious thing about this movie is that this isn't your usual traditional kung fu affair. Nope, this is a modern day action picture. Something that really, in terms of what the studios were doing in Hong Kong at the time, was not really the thing to do. It wasn't really the, you know, like, I mean, it was mainly just traditional kung fu movies. And talking of that, how weird and bizarre and surreal it is sometimes seeing these players, these kung fu players in a modern setting. Because you're so used to seeing them in that traditional sort of Shaw Brothers kung fu sense. So when they're taken out of that and they're put in modern day with cars and everything else, for whatever reason, it can actually seem a bit surreal. Not only is it unique for that, but it's also special as the film also contains some of the Venom mob. Yes, we have some of the Venom mob here in this movie. Some are background like Chang Sheng and Lu Feng, but Sun Chan, Mang and Philip Kwok all have major roles. So in some regards, it's sort of a Venom mob movie. You could argue that it is it is a Venom mob movie, but make no mistake, this film really does belong to Sheng, and it's a real testament for how magnificent the guy was. I mean, the guy just had great charisma, the camera loved him, and what I always loved about Sheng was he just was a kung fu actor. He had incredible range and personality, Sheng, but he was a bit like, he was sort of like what Jackie Chan was doing in them, like sort of the Yuen Wu Ping seasonal films vehicles. That sort of, he just had that sort of cheekiness about him, that sort of sense of goofiness, like I'd say. But he just, at the same time, Sheng, he could handle the serious moments. He could handle like the dramatic parts when needed, and that was what was so great about Sheng, especially Chinatown Kid. From start to finish, it's just a real tribute to Sheng. It really is sort of a testament to just how amazing the guy was. I think Cheh originally started like the film in 1976, but was put on hold for him to complete other projects like Shaolin Temple, which I reviewed previously. Now, not only is the film unique in the modern setting, but it's also a modern day Hong Kong action film that is not set in Hong Kong. It's actually set in the States. We're off to San Francisco in this one, so this was, like I say, quite revolutionary. This wasn't Shaw Brothers just giving the audiences more of the same. And it's like, no, let's do a modern day action film, and not only that, let's set it somewhere else. Let's go stateside. So this was what, in many ways, is what makes Chinatown Kid stand out so much. Though what they do is they do the Way of the Dragon thing, right? They do exactly what Bruce Lee did. Okay, so what they do is they get a few like sort of outdoor shots, a few sort of like Sheng walking around the streets of San Francisco and things like that. But the rest of it, the bulk of it, is actually just filmed on the studios in Hong Kong, much like Bruce Lee did with Way of the Dragon. You know, got some shots of him and Nora Meow and, you know, things like that. Chuck Norris on location in Rome, but obviously the interior scenes were all filmed in the studio, and that's what they do here. Obviously saving money, time, budget constraints and things like that, but it doesn't hurt the film in any way. As I say, it's quicker and it's easier, and you can forgive the film for that. What really makes the film special too is that it channels them Boxer from Shantung vibes about a man who has nothing but is wanting more and becomes corrupted, or shall we say lost, at least in that sense of the light of the spectrum of what is right and wrong. So it does. This is why I mean, if you cast your mind back to my Boxer from Shantung review, I absolutely love that movie. It's one of my all-time favourite Shaw Brothers movies. Well, it's one of my all-time favourite movies, full stop. Boxer from Shantung. But Chinatown Kid actually, why I like Chinatown Kid as well is because it actually, in a way, is sort of the same template of movie. You know, taking out going to the America part of it, it does have that, but it does have that sense of somebody who wants more, somebody who does sort of get corrupted, somebody who is incredibly, maybe you could say, I don't know, naive or whatever it may be, but Sheng plays it totally different to sort of what Chen Quan Tai was doing as Ma in that movie, but it follows just a few of the same beats that just gives it that sort of Boxer from Shantung vibe. So at its core, it is basically Boxer from Shantung. This film, however, is a different entity, as the character of Sheng is not necessarily wanting more and to rise to the top. He just wants simple things. This is what I'm talking about, the difference here between like Sheng here and Ma. Like they have like, if you recall back in Boxer from Shantung, it was always about this like cigarette holder. That was a symbol that sort of Ma had made it. And here with Sheng, like I say, he just wants simple things like a new watch and being able to buy his grandfather new glasses. He's not so much headstrong, like I say, he's just extremely naive, trusting, and in some regards, Fu Sheng's character in this movie is actually extremely gullible. Whereas Ma in Boxer from Shantung wanted more, but would walk down the criminal path knowing indeed what lies ahead. Fu Sheng in this one is like, his character is very much, he's led on the path to his downfall by those around him, and in a sense that is what makes Chinatown Kid more of a tragedy, and dare I say actually more impactful. I think because of his naivety and because of how gullible he is, and because of, like I say, he didn't, like I say, Ma in Boxer from Shantung knows exactly what he's doing. He's fully aware of this sort of criminal path and this criminal road that he has taken. Fu Sheng here is not really aware that he's doing anything wrong. He's always wanted, like I say, he started with simple things like wanting to get his grandfather new glasses, or he wanted him a new watch. They make a big thing about the watch in this movie, but it's really those around him that have sort of corrupted him or made him believe that this is okay, it's all right. So him in his, like a sort of his naive state, is like he's just going with it. He doesn't see actually anything wrong with it, which is why when the film goes on, it's actually more of a tragedy than, in a way, more than what Boxer from Shantung was, because you really do feel sorry for Fu Sheng in this movie, because you know it's not really his fault. He just, unfortunately, like can happen in real life, you get in with a bad crowd, you get in with a bad group of people, and you can't necessarily get out of it. Like, he doesn't go to crime for social status, he goes to it out of desperation and thinking this is the only way I can get out of this poor way of living. I've been offered a hand, therefore I shall take it. As I say, Fu Sheng's character in this is always pining for a digital watch. Something that he sees as sort of a symbol that he has made it. Even in the very early scenes of the film, his grandfather gives him his watch, which he sort of lovingly accepts. So the watch is very much that's the film's motif of saying, like, the character, if he could have one of them digital watches, you know, he's made it. A bit like the cigarette holder was, like I mentioned, you know, with Ma and Boxer from Shantung. When he sees David Chang with that cigarette holder, he's like, I want one of them. If I can get that, then I've stepped up the social ladder. I've made it a bit further. I'm going places. But here the focus is on a digital watch. So it, like I mentioned, it does have them sort of similar beats as Boxer from Shantung. Now, despite the film being a bit of a tragedy, there is some comedy in the film too, like when he's getting close with this girl and he constantly calls a hot dog a dog meat sausage. And what makes the film even more watchable is the chemistry Fu Sheng has with Sun Chien. Both end up working in the same restaurant, wanting better things, and Fu Sheng, a man who has nothing, Sun Chien, an educated, intelligent man who has come there to study, yet regardless of their backgrounds, both end up working the same job. Now, Sun Chien in this is very interesting because in a lot of the Venom mob movies, well, a good handful of the Venom mob movies, you could probably say he's the most quietest of the Venom mob. You could probably say he's usually the one that's in the background. Usually Philip Kwok and Sheng are very much centre, well, and Lo Mang as well. Lu Fang's usually on villain for doing his villain thing. But Sun Chen's the one who is often a bit in the background, or he doesn't have as much screen time as the others, or he has to take a bit of a back seat whilst Philip Kwok and Sheng are doing loads of acrobatics and flipping all around the screen. But in this film, Sun Chien, you don't get much action from the guy, but you actually get one hell of a performance from Sun Chien. He's in the movie a hell of a lot, and him and Fu Sheng have a great dynamic because, like I say, they're both from two different kinds of backgrounds. They're both there for different reasons, but it goes to show that sometimes, regardless of your background, you just have to take what's in front of you. That's where they both are at the same time, despite coming from both different backgrounds, but they're both working at this same job. It shows sometimes it doesn't matter how many grades or experiences you have, sometimes just circumstances alone can really throw you a curveball. But aside from Fu Sheng, as I say, Sun Chien puts in a magnificent performance, as does Philip Kwok and Lo Mang as gang leaders. Lo Mang in particular, really working it in this film. Like, him as this gang leader, really, he fits into this role completely, having a real blast here. He suits... Lo Mang was he's sometimes the good guy in some of the Venom mobs, sometimes he's the villain, like Kid with the Golden Arm, but he just fits it. Lo Mang can really do a villain. Lo Mang can really do a villain really well. As I say, it's usually Lu Feng that takes that mantle in like the Venom mob movies, but I say Lo Mang in this, he just, like I say, the guy can do like evil roles really well. Now, because this is an unusual film, there are some different cuts of the movie, mainly in regards to the drug taking. I personally have always watched the longer international cut. I think any film, if there's a longer cut of it, I'm going to watch the longer version. You know, I don't want to, because anytime you know, if you watch the shortened version of anything, you're missing out. You know, you're missing out on some footage, or you're missing out on some scenes. I remember like watching sort of Young Master, Jackie Chan's Young Master, dubbed back in the day, and the end fight against Wang in 6 was severely butchered. It was cut to pieces. Like, there was no Planet Sweet score, there was no him like doing all the grabs and the grapples on, you know, like on Jackie Chan, nothing like that. So when somebody showed, I mean, I'm going back when I was really young, I was probably about 10 years old here, so when somebody showed me the Cantonese print, it was like, oh, you got to check this out. They're like, the fight's much longer, you're not really seeing the real fight. Watch that version of Young Master. I don't know what I'm going on about Young Master, but watch that, and then it blew me away, because it's like, oh my god, this, now I'm seeing the real fight. But going back to what I mean about my original point, Chinatown Kid, there are a couple of different versions of the film, but my advice is watch the longer cut. Like with anything, like Boxer from Shantung, always watch the longer version, because you know you're just being shortchanged if you watch a version that is cut. Now, it's a funny movie in a sense, not funny as in ha-ha, because yes, it's a Shaw Brothers classic, but not in the senses that you would think. It's a classic for many different reasons. It's a classic because, like I say, you got Fu Sheng on great form. It's a classic because you've got the Venom mob there. It's a classic because it's set in the modern day. You know, we got Wang Lung-wei in this movie as well. I mean, there's so much going on with this movie. You know, it really it's quite an odd part of the Shaw Brothers back catalogue, but it's a worthy addition to anybody's kung fu collection. You know, this is a film largely about performances, and it's worth watching just for that alone. Fu Sheng always had the right blend of sort of rebellion, liveliness and comedic touches, and it shows here in this film more than ever. And I think, regardless of the Venom mob being in the movie, which of course is one hell of an added bonus, this is still very much Fu Sheng's movie. And I think if you're going to watch a Fu Sheng film, or if you're new to Fu Sheng, this is a great place to start. This really is checking out Chinatown Kid. And like I mentioned, though it's not a classic in the sense of it's not a traditional, like typical Kung Fu Shaw Brothers movie, it's one hell of a Fu Sheng film. You know, it really is a great Fu Sheng film. And it's also as well a little bit a really, like I say, a Venom mob movie. So you're getting two great things there that do happen with this film. And it's actually sort of a rough and ready film. Like, it's, you know, it's not exactly, I'd say, edited amazingly well. I wouldn't say the editing is sort of some of the best you will ever see. But make no mistake, this is an epic movie. Like, the ending is fantastic, seeing Fu Sheng tearing these gangsters apart. No music, just an epic gang-fueled kung fu action set piece. His downfall in this film may be a bit rushed. I think it's sort of, it does feel a bit like sort of rushed here and there at the end. But just like Boxer from Shantung, this is a must-see movie, and every time I watch it, I absolutely love this film. I really do have a lot of praise to be said about Chinatown Kid. And it's a Shaw Brothers, you know, it's a Shaw Brothers classic set in the modern day, like I mentioned, with Fu Sheng, with the Venom mob, with great action, 70s funky tunes as well for good measure, great performances. I mean, what are you waiting for, right? Chinatown Kid just has it all. But I say, Mang, and like I say, Philip Kwok in this, you sometimes, because Fu Sheng's so amazing in the role, and it is, like I say, it is his movie, the Venom mob, they're sort of second place to Fu Sheng, but Chien in particular is the one out of all the Venom who probably fares the best in this movie, because he really does actually get to show his acting chops. So give this film a try, or if you've only seen the 90-minute cut, watch the longer version. It's basically the same film, just everything just feels so much more fleshed out. So as I say, if there is an option, you do find yourself in this predicament ever where you've got a shorter version or a longer version, always watch the longer version. I will try and review a lot more Fu Sheng for you guys. There's a lot of his movies to get across. There's a lot of classic Fu Sheng movies to do reviews on, but I thought let's start with one of the big ones. Let's start with one of his classics and have a look at Chinatown Kid. So if you haven't seen it, make sure to go and check it out. So you've got the Venom mob, you've got Fu Sheng, you've got modern day San Francisco, you've got gang fights, you've got everything, and it's just a fantastic epic movie. So thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.